Hello, tonight is a special edition of Meet the CEO. We are in a hybrid formula here at the offices of Signant Health in Iasi, Moldova Center. Together with us are the top CXO of Signant Health. Roger Smith is with us, the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO, and Ian Jennings, the Chief Commercial Services Officer. Also, Adina Tapalaga is in the audience, which is the country manager for Romania. We will learn a lot about the e-health, about the role of the Signant Health in the in the fight against this COVID, okay, and how they improved the path to adoption of the vaccine throughout the world. Good evening, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
So, tell us more a little bit about the Signant Health. We know something about the CRF Health. You are here in Iași for 4.5 years. You inaugurated the office here in 2017 first. But what is Signant Health today?
Yeah, Signant Health was born in late 2018 and resulted from the merger of a U.S. company called Bracket and CRF Health here in Europe, which is, as you said, had a presence here in Iași since 2017, but was headquartered in the UK. And the resultant company was the merger of those two, and both companies were pioneers for over 20 years, founded around the year 2000, some in the late 90s, in roughly kind of electronic health technologies, where many processes in the clinical trial world were done on paper, right, at different clinics and so forth. And these two companies were kind of pioneers in bringing those processes into the electronic realm, and over the ensuing 20 years became individual leaders in several technologies. One was called ECOA, which is just electronic health outcomes or clinical outcomes in the clinic. Randomization technology, which was the specific software that is used to put patients into placebo and randomized controlled arms of a trial, and several other ancillary advisory services that contribute expertise in addition to the technology. So they were both kind of operating in the same realm, and together, pulled their capabilities together to create a bigger company that we thought could be market leading in the space. So that's kind of the history of Signant Health and where we are now.
Excellent. Jan, you are the Chief Commercial Officer of the company. I know one of the biggest clients of yours is Pfizer. How do the majority of your clients see your work during this pandemic times?
Well, we've been very fortunate during the pandemic. I think our services have resonated with the challenges that pharma companies have faced. And if we really look at clinical trials as a design format, that really hasn't changed very much over the last maybe 50 years. Patients go to sites or the clinics, and they meet their doctor there, and everything happens there. So the interaction between the patient and the investigator happens at that site, at that clinic. When the pandemic hit, last March, April time, people were locked down in their houses, and there was no ability for patients to go to their doctors, and enrollment in clinical trials fell. So then companies like Pfizer had to talk to companies like Signant to talk about how we could help them facilitate that interaction between the patient and the site during the pandemic when they were not physically able to do that. And obviously that's one element, but of course Pfizer were also pioneering and were ahead in the research for a COVID vaccine, which we all know, of course, is one of the first to be approved. And Signant were selected to work on their large 46,000 patient trial to prove the efficacy of their compound, of their COVID vaccine. So that was an amazing achievement for us as a company, amazing achievement for Pfizer, of course, and we were very privileged to support them. So Subsequently, of course, got that through, and Pfizer got emergency use approval for that, and subsequently have had full approval for it. We've built on that now, and we continue to work with Pfizer on other formulations and other exciting things that they're trying to do to advance their formulas for COVID. So, yeah, it's been an exciting journey for us. And so COVID, while initially was a little bit uncertain for us all, I think it's turned out that the technology that we provide has been beneficial and helpful to our pharma customers.
Excellent. For the people that are watching us online, please you can put your question in comments. We will see, and we will address to our guests. A question for both of you. So one of the key, let's say, issues with the vaccine was in some people's minds was the speed of approval. Okay. How did you achieve this speed? Because usually this kind of clinical trial lasts for years, if not almost a decade.
Yeah.
How was it possible for this, besides your willingness to help the mankind, to achieve this kind of approval or at least your phase that you are working at in a matter of almost 1 year?
Yeah. Would you want to say that?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just some background, but definitely, I think it's important in people's minds to view this process as one of determination and one of understanding the bigness of the moment, right? I mean, this is a once in a century problem that affected the whole world unilaterally and at the same time. And what I think we can assure is that no corners were cut in the testing. It was the resolve of the U.S. government. Maybe some in Iasi and Romania have heard of this, but there was a process called Operation Warp Speed. And Signant Health was recently at the SCRS conference in Florida with the former Health and Human Services Secretary, Alex Azar, who was considered the architect of this. And it was simply a function of determination, where you look at how historically, because we're human beings and bureaucracy takes over and all kinds of things get in the way in the normal course of business. If you had unlimited resources, which the world put towards this, and you were able to diagram exactly how you do a clinical trial and take white space out at every single potential process that you could, and you also had the tremendous resources of the US government de-risking every part of it, be it manufacturing. So we were able to move in parallel on many phases. When you do a normal program, you work in serial, right? You do phase one.
Cascade.
Exactly. You do phase one, and then you tinker with the data and you make sure you have something that's viable. Then you go to phase two and you get some more data. And you don't go into certain other processes or take on different expenditures until you're absolutely sure that you have a viable candidate. Well, if you de-risk all that through the resources of the US and world governments, you can do extraordinary things. So I think it was simply the determination based on a once in a century set of circumstances and unlimited resources to remove all obstacles and all excuses towards this common goal. It was still immensely difficult to get humans to move out of their normal processes. But I think it's really important that people understand that we were going for emergency use authorization. It's now fully approved. But as a participant, one of many in this process, we didn't leapfrog any processes or any protocols. We just completely and utterly de-risked and removed obstacles. And Ian, please add.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the only thing I would add to that is that we've also got to remember that clinical trials are not. There's no such thing as a single clinical trial. We've got to understand the difference between doing biologics and clinical trials on biological compound or large molecule compound versus small molecule or synthesized compound. They're very, very separate. So when it comes to biologics, when you do things like flu trials, influenza trials, they're very quick. People forget this. That every year there's an influenza trial or trials that take place every season to obviously test the efficacy of new formulations based on various variants there are at the time. So it's not unusual for a clinical trial on a biologic for a flu-like virus to take a short period of time, right? That's the first point. And I think the second thing is, the thing that actually takes time in clinical trials is, as Roger said, a lot of the white space, a lot of the processes that happen end to end. Because of the severity of COVID, lots of these things happened in parallel. So it was able to really lean into these things to try and make them quicker. And the last point to make is recruitment. Recruiting patients is probably the longest thing in a clinical trial. A clinical trial might last for 3 years, might take 2 years to recruit the patients. Because of COVID and the nature of the illness, that affects all of us here. The recruiting patients are not difficult because everybody is a potential clinical trial patient. So that plus the effort towards eliminating all of the gaps and trying to shorten things, plus the fact that biological clinical trials are often quite short. Combination, obviously, with other things that Roger said, is another reason why we should not be surprised that this didn't take 10 years, and that actually any other biological compound could quite easily have been given approval in that kind of time frame.
The question now is, how do we take those lessons and embed them in the process going forward, right? Because we have an extraordinary example of what's possible. We got to make sure we just don't retreat back to the old ways.
Yeah. So actually what you are saying is that fast doesn't eliminate follow, doesn't eliminate the fact that you saw the whole process as a project management and you enhance it in order to eliminate dead times. How was this felt within your company from your employees' point of view? Were they reluctant to speed up? Were they feeling like a superhero? What was the feeling among because you have centers in Europe, in Asia, and in US. How was this pandemic felt in the employees' hearts?
It was a Herculean effort. So when we first started the negotiations with Pfizer on this, it was very clear this is going to have to happen quickly. So we have to raise the awareness internally, and obviously at that stage we have to ensure that our delivery colleagues, our software and R&D colleagues, as well as all of the other supporting people within the business, we're going to be ready for this. But I think everybody was also aware that this was a moment in time, and that if we did not do this, and it was serious, remember, we were in lockdown and everything else was happening. So there was a lot of confusion, but also a lot of resolve that we were going to do everything we could to support one of our premium customers. They were desperately keen for us to work round the clock and to ensure that we understood the severity and the importance for them of the work that we were doing. And of course, we had a track record of working with them, supporting them for a number of years. So it became one of these things of partnering with our customers and being good partners. And once we started, we had a fantastic team. We kept the communication channels running. I think everybody felt the pressure. We're working very, very hard. Whenever any little issues arise, as they always do in clinical trials, we're able to resolve those very quickly, keep communicating with Pfizer. So I think people felt like superheroes at the end. I don't think they did in the middle. I think in the middle, they felt like they were just working very, very hard towards a common goal.
I think also there was a general sense that no wasn't an acceptable answer. There was a general sense of the moment, the bigness of the moment, and as Ian said, a lot of people pulled a lot of rabbits out of a hat to make this happen. But I never got the sense anyone came with what would just be run-of-the-mill excuses. I can't. I have plans. Everybody kind of understood that this was special, and it was bigger than all of us. Many similar teams at many companies put that same effort in. But it was certainly a point of pride for all of us at Signant that the teams just said yes, and whatever it took, they found ways. I mean, there was never a time when people were saying it's too hard or this is getting crazy. There was just an understanding that no was just not an option. It was a much bigger process than than we're used to.
Yeah, let's see about also, let's stay in the people area. Okay, I know that you hired a lot of new specialists during this period. I think in Iași alone you hire more than 150 new people, an increase of 50%. Was this the case also global wise of increasing in the research and development centers?
Yeah, so we as a global company, we've been hiring at a pretty aggressive rate. So globally, I think we've added north of 500 people since May of this year. What I would say is that Iași disproportionately got a larger share of that, and it's for a number of reasons. We have a fantastic team here. We think that the city and its dedication with the university system and so forth to produce graduates across a number of scientific disciplines, a number of tech disciplines, and then general disciplines gives us extraordinary reach. And Iași is unique in our global footprint in that we can invest in tech here, which is obviously a focus, but also lots of positions: project management, clinical positions, support positions, and the ability to get them at all levels, whether university graduate, experienced, allows us to provide career progression for the people in our company. So this is our second largest hub globally behind the US. I think it's going to grow extraordinarily in the next 18 to 24 months. And we just get a great team here and great value and a great spirit of people that help move our company into the future. So we've been very fortunate to have a team on the ground here. Of course, you mentioned Adina. The leadership here, understands the city, understands what's important to the people, understands how to make a company that will become an employer of choice for people in Iași. So we're very fortunate to have a great team on the ground here, and their output for the company is extraordinary. So it's not a tough decision to decide to invest more here in Romania.
Yes, because we saw usually Iași evolved from an outsourcing destination, call center one in the beginning of the millennium, to one of financial outsourcing afterwards, and automotive engineering, and now you are one of the key players on this kind of e-health. Okay, so between the talent pool that medical university gives us and the technical and main university of Iași from the computer science faculty gives you. So actually you are one of the few companies that harnessed the talent pool from different areas. Not only we need just IT, you also have a lot of positions for people coming from the medical field, yes, which is something that was at some point Iași was a destination for this kind of investment, and now we have the main drug factory in Romania here with us, which is also exporting to US, by the way. And how do you feel about this? You will search more on the IT, you will search more on the medical, and you'll make a mix. What do you think the next 18 to 24 months will bring on the labor market?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the worldwide labor market is competitive. I think the pandemic has changed considerably the employer-employee relationship, and I think a lot of individuals are recalibrating what's important to them in terms of the value they get from their relationship with their workplace. So again, I think that's where we want to rely on the local team here, because what works here in Iași may not work in the US, may not work in Finland, may not work in the Philippines and the other places that we hold centers. So I think it's really important to us to be able to attract the right technical talent, because at the end of the day, we're a software product company. But there's a lot of other services, and what makes Yash particularly attractive is that it's not a single skill marketplace. There's incredible English skills here. There's just all around talent here, and we feel we can invest in a broad recipe of employees here in Yash to handle everything. And I think it's important that as a product company and not so much kind of an outsourced either IT or services company, we want to attract people that want to chart the course for our product. Technical engineering and the supporting services are creative endeavors, and we want to make sure that we're getting a constant infusion of new talent that's going to bring new solutions and new creativity to our company. That's the only way we remain vibrant and competitive and compete globally. So I think it's just an all-around great destination for our needs.
Excellent. I like your tagline, the evidence company, the evidence generation company. It looks like a tagline from a police movie. No, it's only my opinion. Yeah. How will you use this hard work that you did in the last years? Because we can talk about years now. It's not only one. In the work for other clients or for other products, or this kind of hard work is not only for this vaccine. For sure, it can be used as a method for others. How will you use it? How will you?
I mean, again, we've got to remember, as Roger said, the foundation of Signant, although that was formed 3 years ago, is built on 20 years foundation in two separate companies. CRF, of course, being here in Yash for 2017, but also Bracket Global as a US business. So clinical trial and software development and iteration for clinical trials is an evolution anyway. So it's a constant kind of process that we learn from. Lots of lessons learned, I think, in terms of what is possible if everybody wants to put their mind to it. And not just us as a supplier and a manufacturer of software, but also from our pharmaceutical customers, who themselves, of course, had to make massive changes to their processes in order to be able to deliver those kinds of things. But I think more importantly, what it's done is change the expectation. And along with consumer software and expectations that are rising from the use of mobile devices and other types of software, usability, convergence, instead of having separate verticals of independent pieces of technology, the ability for those things to fold together in terms of mapping the journey for a patient from first touch point in a clinical trial to the end, what happens to the data afterwards, all those kinds of questions that historically probably haven't been dealt with. We've dealt with slices of a timeline rather than the whole timeline. So a lot of that's come out of COVID learning, not just for Signant, but for the whole industry. And expectations have risen, of course, as a result of, if we can do these kinds of things in that kind of time frame, what is stopping us doing other good work in other areas? And I think our challenge now, of course, is to make sure that we're resourced appropriately, that we build efficiencies into our processes so that we can gain the operational leverages that we need as a business as we grow. And similarly from the pharmaceutical sponsors, for them to set their expectations appropriately, that, if we are going to deliver in these timeframes, there's a timeline, there's a price, there's a benefit and a value statement attached to that, which we all have to get aligned with. So it's been a journey for everybody, I think, and a very enjoyable one now that we look back. I think when we were in the middle of it, as I said before, I think we were all running so fast we didn't have time to think about that. But now as we look back, there's a lot of learnings to be taken.
We have a comment from Alexandra. She's very proud to be part of this awesome company. Okay, Alexandra, that's good.
Way to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you are in the room
Somebody's getting a raise.
Yes. For sure, we are getting close a little bit to the point where we will close the online meeting and we'll stay here at the beer and the Coke and the Coca-Cola. To further discuss, but what can you tell about the future of your work for the Pfizer vaccine? My family used the Pfizer vaccine. This was happening My kids also, we were waiting for younger and younger people to be safe to be vaccinated.
Sure.
I think now it's 12 years old, the limit. Is there if you can tell us, if the NDA doesn't stop us, they are working on lowering this age for people, I don't know, at least the school age. Okay.
In terms of talking about the specifics of what we're working on, we'll probably not do that, if that's okay, just because that's up to Pfizer to share publicly with the world. But suffice to say that having now reached that efficacy and reached the approval of the first iteration of the vaccine, clearly, like any pharmaceutical company, now we're looking at optimization in terms of that's 2 doses. It has to be stored at -70°C and so on. How can Pfizer deliver that either potentially with fewer doses, less burden on the transporting and storage and safety? So they're working on optimizing the delivery of that, and also thinking clearly ahead around boosters, because let's be honest, what we've got to think about here is not fighting COVID. We're not fighting COVID. We're learning to live with COVID because it's here, and we've all got to get used to that. So once we get through this next stage of vaccinations and get the population of the world to a state where we feel safe, then boosters are going to start coming through and other things. So Pfizer are working clearly, like anybody else, as are their competitors, on a number of those kinds of things. So we're continuing to deliver to their expectations. We're continuing to work and advising them and how we can help them further. So we're looking forward to to a strong future. But clearly, we are, as anybody, we're only as good as the last thing that we deliver. We've got to continue. We can't be comfortable that we've done something once. That's in the past. We've got to keep moving forward now. So working, learning, iterating, and adapting with our customers and the different needs of the market. But suffice to say, actually, I will say a quick point. But the Pfizer initial vaccine was the only trial that was clinically tested from age 12 and above. All the other ones were 18 and above. Yeah. The other one about the Pfizer trial, which was the biggest one that was done, that was 46,000 patients. I think the nearest one to that was 30,000 for a competitive drug. So I think we were very proud to be part of that, and everybody who's taken that, feel assured that they were, all the rules were followed appropriately, and the reason it happened as quickly as it did was because we just doubled our efforts in every single place and worked 24/7 to get this thing done. So it was the quality of the work was there. It was just an incredible effort actually from everybody to make sure that we could do it within that time frame. But there's lots of new things coming, and I'm sure as soon as there's something to share, then Pfizer will be doing that, and as soon as they do that with them, we'll be joining it. Yeah.
Excellent. I had on Monday my third dose, the booster. Yeah. No side effects yet. I think you should also look in the side effects compare when you are thinking about the history of Pfizer. Any words on the final moments of this interview, Roger? Maybe about future as you see. How is your future of work, future of research and development, future of mankind? Yeah, we know about 2000. Yeah. Because we should make plans for Mars also, and for Mars, for the Moon in 5 to 10 years.
I think maybe I'll leave us with this. Signant is at a unique position. We're not the only company that does this, but we're very proud and think that there's going to be a lot of winners. We just want to make sure we're disproportionately one. But one thing to maybe leave the audience with as they think about their futures and think about what all of this means in terms of a go-forward plan is that the drug development business is the data management business. And we think of this process as a clinical and medical business, and it is very much that. But ultimately, the end deliverable from a clinical trial, no matter how big, no matter how many tens of thousands of patients, no matter how grand and expansive the infrastructure that's set up around the world, is a thumb drive of data at the end of the day. And the key to that data is uniformity across the world. And so much of what we do in the drug development business is spend time trying to fix the data that we, as imperfect humans, inject into the process. So the future of clinical development and drug development is a technological future. Not because we don't need humans or we don't need really intelligent clinicians and drug developers, but the ability to capture data from subjects the right way and uniformly across the world, right? We run a worldwide controlled experiment, and the value we provide to our sponsors is that it's done the same way, whether you're in Iași, whether you're in Budapest, whether you're in Beijing or you're in Cincinnati. Uniformity is the value. When we talk about quality, and we talk about quality of data, and we talk about safety in patients, the greatest protection against all of those things is that the data is being collected uniformly in the same way. And therefore we can find signal in the noise. We can see patterns forming, whether they be safety patterns, efficacy patterns, whatever those things are. And the only way to do that is through a highly, highly leveraged technological environment. So these two things are natural bedfellows. And when you apply technology in the right way, technology doesn't fix everything. But when you aid the process in the right way, you get a far faster and more uniform result. And that means that drug development costs go down. That means drug development speed goes up. And ultimately what we're trying to do is maintain the same quality, maintain the same integrity, okay, but take the speed up so that we can speed these therapies to people faster. We had to have a worldwide crisis to make this happen with the vaccines, but was always possible. So we really believe that, and I think we're humbled and we're appreciative to be at a kind of nexus of time and place where the world is seeing that the future of drug development is the technological leverage and data management business. And I think that's a really important thing for people to keep in mind, because there's no way to do this better without serious technological leverage.
Excellent. Roger Smith, the CEO, Ian Jennings, the CCO of Signant Health, thank you for being here with us tonight in Iași. Thank you for sharing this kind of knowledge. Thank you for giving us hope that we can live with COVID and we can fight any future pandemic because of this nexus, I will say, in time that we are both happy and unlucky to live. We will close the online session, and maybe we will have also a discussion together with all the people here in the room, from the universities, from local producers, from medical companies that for sure will ask you some question offline. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Pleasure.